Welcome to the Lightforge. This is ADWCTA. This is going to be. There's just so much that's happened. There's so much that's happened in the last week. But first, if you're watching this on YouTube and not listening to it as a podcast, you will notice that I have new glasses, and I think that's the most important thing to happen in the arena community this week. I mean, just you got to start with the important stuff. I mean, there's other stuff that's been happening, like Hafu's doing 110 challenge, well, whatever that is. Someone like actually went through and looked at all the arena records of people and like watched past broadcasts to verify. But you know, whatever. That's all small potatoes compared to my new glasses. We have to restart this because you are still muted. And you thought we were going to have a clean start.
You're a terrible, terrible person.
Oh man. Okay. Gotta keep up the. Oh, we should stop recording and re-record. Okay.
Yeah.
Keep the energy up.
You're just a terrible person.
I'm an awful person. We did the same thing. In our earlier recording for next week's episode, except there wasn't Twitch chat to like actually tell us, and so they went on for like almost 10 minutes, definitely more than 5 minutes before I caught it. Thanks, guys.
You're the worst.
Okay, are you ready?
Yes.
Start recording. Welcome to the Lightforge. This is ADWCTA.
This is Merps, and we have a very busy week. Lots to talk about on this Lightforge.
Yeah, it's going to be a really big Lightforge today. But first, the most important thing, if you guys are watching this on YouTube and not actually listening to this as a podcast, you will see that I have new glasses. And they are good glasses. I picked them up yesterday. And as far as the arena community goes, and what's important in Hearthstone Arena this week, I think this is probably the biggest news.
Yeah. Okay. So tie this into the arena somehow.
What do you mean? I have glasses. That is by far the most relevant thing to the arena. I mean, other things happen too, right? Like Hafu did a 110 challenge and like almost got there. Someone on Reddit is putting together arena records of all the streamers, and they're like he's actually going in and watching past broadcasts to like verify this. But that's all small potatoes compared to the fact that I now have new glasses.
You do, and hopefully the only reason you were unable to do basic math before was because of your poor vision, but we'll see if this improves any aspect of your game.
The new glasses aren't actually of a very significantly deeper degree of, seeing ability. It's more just like the frames.
Well, maybe we'll see some kind of placebo effect, right?
Oh, okay.
You believe you can math better, so therefore
it's dangerous.
That is very dangerous.
Right now, my biggest strength is my recognition that I don't know math and I can't do math.
That is true. All right, so other than your glasses, what topic do you want to tackle first?
Okay, let's start what the thing on the written thing says, which is the arena records. Some guy, user sexting Shakespeare, I think, yes. Put together like everybody. Like we're talking, there are streamers on here that I've never even heard of. There are streamers on here who are like not English streamers. I think there's like a German streamer, like who I don't mean like they don't speak English. I mean they stream not in English. So if you go and watch them and you don't know their language, you won't understand anything. But there's like Russian streamer on here. And they just like gathered everyone up, and he like clicked through every past broadcast to verify everyone's record, whether they like have a public record or they don't. I think we should give ourselves a pat on the back.
Yes,
we came out very well.
I think one of us should receive a better pat on the back than the other, even though this other person is not named on here.
Okay. So one thing that this guy did not do is he left Merps out. And he left Merps out for good reason, because we stream on ADWCTA's channel, and because Merps has like a total sample size of like 30 runs, or like just something that's not large enough to actually have made the list. So together, our runs were added together, and we were treated as one person. We are called ADWCTA. And so ADWCTA looks really good, even though ADWCTA has a worse record than Merps.
Yup. So you're welcome. That's fine. But definitely, so we want to talk about this because number one, it gained some traction within the Hearthstone community, and also this is something in which we've kind of talked about for a while, right? Whenever we talked about kind of advancing the arena, one of the things that's always been mentioned is sort of a leaderboard of some kind. And this is, if you look at the chart, sort of the chart that this person has made, it is very extensive, right? It obviously took.
This person put in a lot of work, and he's like updating it every couple days, and he's like pledged to do that, which is like insane.
Right. And if you can look at the fine print as well, so there's stuff like only runs played on that specific account are counted, because that's just how Blizzard would track as well. You don't have to necessarily agree with the methodology, but it is more information out there, right? It is just more information, and what you want to do with it is, that's up to you. But this is something that kind of like maybe in 6 months, Blizzard might be doing it, right?
Yeah, hopefully. Who knows?
Maybe.
But I mean, it's all about people taking matters into their own hands when Blizzard is not doing stuff, because Blizzard is really slow at doing things, right?
Yes.
Like, even the things that seem simple historically, they've just been really slow at doing things. And this has been around for a couple of years. I think people have wanted something like this. And so, props to Sexting Shakespeare for putting this together. Hope he can keep it up. But yeah, it's a lot of work. I'm actually surprised that there's so many people here. And it's also a nice way to see that, like, the people we like invite on this show are not like bullshit. They're like real people who do really well in the arena. Like, you look through this, right? Shady Bunny's on here a bunch of times, Simcopter, Hafu, Crip. Like, these are like, and Ratsma's on here as well, even though I love Ratsma's entry. This is the best one. If you click on the actual entry for Ratsma's tab, there are notes in which the guy actually remarks times in which, like, Ratsma is purposefully tanking his record. And like acting weird, because he has he does a lot of like non try hard runs, and they all get lumped in. Not everyone is try hard all the time like we are.
Yeah. So something that I kind of talked about before, you can use this whichever way you want, but one thing that you shouldn't kind of take away from this is not the be all end all, right? There are so many factors that come into play when you would think like, oh, this is just by the numbers. It would be but no,
numbers lie. Numbers are awful things.
Yep. Numbers, you can hide behind them and kind of claim objectivity, but it's all about how you
the interpretation of the numbers, right? Numbers are objective. No one's going to say like, this guy verified the numbers. That's just a fact. But the facts aren't what's important. What's important is how you interpret the facts, right? Like,
exactly.
So I'm very happy saying we have the #1 record in the arena right now. I have absolutely no problems saying that. But if you want to make like the leap and say that, oh, therefore these guys are the best players, well, now you have a lot of interpretation issues in the middle.
Exactly. Right? And this was touched upon even in the thread as well. But stuff that doesn't get represented here is stuff like stream sniping. Like the biggest streamers will obviously get sniped more. There was a period of time in which someone like Hafu actively boycotted the top classes.
Which makes a difference. We're going to get to that point, actually, later in great detail about how that will affect your record.
Right. And stuff like, we obviously have lots of respect for Ratsma's game. And then, like, the reason why it might not be as high is just, sometimes he likes to have fun, right? Who doesn't want to have fun?
You should. Like, one of the things, we've talked to some people about, like, the reactions to this thing coming out, and, other people have commented as well. It's like, some people really like it. Some people are like, oh no, now I heard this third hand. So Retro Gold is a streamer on here. I have no idea who this guy is. I have never like talked to him or seen his stream, but he has like a 6.8 wins per run record. He's on here. He streams a lot. He has like a 200 sample size, and apparently his reaction was, "Oh no, I just want to like stream and like play for fun. I don't want to know that I'm on this leaderboard, and now I'll be like more incentivized to try hard when I would normally just like do things to have fun." And so it's not for necessarily like a positive thing for everybody, but at least for us, right? Like we started way back when in 2014, and the first thing we did is we meticulously tracked our record, and it was one of the ways that we were able to make a claim, because we were, no one knew who we were. We played one arena a week, and we advertised on Reddit's Streamer Saturday thread. They have a thread that's called Streamer Saturday. It's the only place you're allowed to like blatantly self-promote, and a lot of streamers promote there. You need to find a way to make yourself stand out, and so we're able to say like, we stream and we are averaging 9 wins per run on stream for all of our streams. Sample size is like 12 or 14 or whatever, right? But we play all classes evenly, and we have a really high average, so we clearly at least sort of know what we're talking about. And it's really hard to, like, if you want to stream, or if you want to like become a streamer, or get like people to like take you seriously when you like say things about the arena as a really good player, there's no good way to prove it. You can't go out and win a tournament. You can't do any of this stuff. So having this leaderboard allows it just, like, this is what we were talking about before, right? When we do like tier list and like with the Hearth Arena stuff and all of that, we don't like barriers of entry. We don't like barriers of entry to the arena game. We don't like barriers of entry to being content creators and streaming and all of that. And we just don't want to like get to a situation where you create this like, elite club where, now that we are kind of in the sea, we can talk to people and whatever, but other people have no way of like getting known. We think the people who are the best at doing what they do, they should rise to the top, and they should be known. And like without this, I would never have known who the hell I still don't know who Retro Gold is, but I'm gonna make it a point to figure out who Retro Gold is and like watch some of his streams, because he's tracked on here, and it seems like he's doing quite well, right? And it's just a good way for like good players who are able to demonstrate that they're really good, and stream to get like recognition for that.
Yeah. And we've all like believed this since the beginning as well. Kind of more information is good, right? And we've touched upon this in other Lightforges as well. And as for this information, there is some danger in sort of like people can over exaggerate or interpret it in a wrong way, right? Mm-hmm. But we want to kind of bring this up today and sort of not focus on the individuals here, but kind of look at the data in terms of classes, right? And how like I think the most interesting thing is like see what is like the average for Hunter, and what is the average for Mage, and what's the average for Warlock, for players that are really good. Because I don't think you can deny that like all of these players on here are very good. Yeah. There's a reason that the ultimate conclusion, there's a reason that these people get viewers, and there's a reason that all of these people are respected. Like they're at least pretty good in the arena.
Yeah, and you get on here, like on this kind of chart, and we talk about how you shouldn't look at the numbers and say like, oh, that's what it means, but you can conclude that if people are like averaging like 7 wins per run on stream while possibly like getting sniped with pressure while multitasking and all this stuff, probably pretty good arena players, right? Yeah. And it also shows, I think before we talk about the class thing, which we're going to go very much in depth on the class thing, I want to talk about how hard it is to get 7 wins per run.
That's
true. Of the people who are tracked, these are streamers, so they do have some obstacles that most normal players don't have, but still, they're also some of the top players. Only 3 tracked players. Okay, I'm going to count Shady in as part of it, because he's just like a sample size issue away. Yeah. But so only 4 players are averaging more than 7 wins per run who are streamers, who have a sample size of somewhere around 100 runs to work with, regardless of whether they play all classes evenly or if, they whatever. Just only 4. It's us, or I guess 5 if you count you and me as different people. It's us 2, Merps and ADWCTA, then Hafu, Crip, Shady. This is it. And so if you are out there at home and you're legit averaging, like, you know, you're not messing with your stats or whatever, and you're legit averaging 7 wins per run, that's incredible. That like, people don't realize it, right? People think it's like, oh, you average 7 wins per run, it's like getting legend. No, it's like insanely difficult compared to getting legend.
Right.
It's like top 100 legend at least, like around that level.
Which is also why when people in sort of the you know, on Reddit or just in chat, like it seems like there's a huge representation of infinite arena players, right? In which people saying like, oh yeah, I'm infinite, like you're infinite. There's a new player, they're like, oh yeah, just become infinite in the arena and you'll get gold. This gets tossed around a lot, and I think there is a lot of misinformation out there. And you know, there's obviously caveats to this, right? Like a lot of us who stream, we do get sniped, which brings down our average. The composition is different. Like all of us would average much higher if we only played our top 3 classes. We'd also average much lower if we were just all forced to like take shaman and take hunter and take priest, for example. But it does show that kind of sort of kind of where the ceiling is relatively,
like, approximately.
Yeah. And it's very hard. And we're, you know, you see lots of other people being tracked as well. And there's so many factors, but it is really difficult. And it kind of continues from our conversation earlier that the arena is getting harder. If you if you tracked this a year ago, it would be ridiculous. But now I think it has become much lower.
Yeah. So if you guys are wondering how to find this, I actually have no idea how to find it. I just like, I had actually copied and saved this spreadsheet. I don't even know how you can search for this spreadsheet, but if you go on the arena,
you can go to the subreddit Arena HS, and it's at the sidebar.
Yeah. Okay. That's what I was going to suggest. So the subreddit is Arena HS. It's all conversations about the arena. It's a great subreddit as well, and we visit it frequently too. But apparently it's linked on the sidebar there. And if you look at it, the number, like right now, the overall average for the numbers, it's us, then Hafu, then Crypt, then this is only if you have 100 tracked. So it's us, Hafu, Crypt, Retro Gold, Ratsma. And if Shady Bunny were to have hit the and he will hit it very soon, he would have been second. And our solo records, if we were to track it, it would be Merps above me. And we would both be temporarily above Hafu, but not for long, probably. Because we were on a hot streak and she was boycotting top classes. Which, again, right, that shows you the things. And if you look at the last 50 run average, I don't know, I haven't broken this one down by between me and Merps, but us combined, including our co-ops, is third. We're below Hafu and Shady Bunny, and above Crip and Guardsman Bob is fifth. And I apologize for that because I'm the one tanking our record in 2016. If Merps is doing amazing as usual, and I was doing good before, but for whatever reason, 2016, I've yet to get a 10-win run. I think I played 10 runs by now, solo runs, but if not, I'm getting close to 10 runs without getting 10 wins per run. And I'm playing all classes evenly too, so it like really is actually upsetting me. This is like a really big cold streak for me, so I apologize. I'm the one tagging the record, but yeah, that's what it's showing right now. And then there's a nice breakdown of all the classes, and this is what we're going to focus on because this is great stat. Something that we like to do when we're like ranking classes. So one of the things that's going to happen is on Tuesday we're going to release our class tier list, which if you're like following the stream, you can actually, or you look at our tier list, it's actually already updated with the rankings. I just don't have the written out explanation for it yet. And it's Mage on top, followed by Paladin and Rogue on the same tier, then Druid, then Warrior and Warlock on the same tier, then Shaman and Hunter on the same tier, and then Priest at the bottom. With a big gap between Druid and Warrior, but otherwise all kind of small gaps. And that's what the class tier list is. We felt that way for a few weeks now, and it hasn't really changed since then. There's kind of and if you look at the stats on here, and the way we do the tier list isn't like an average player would do better with this class or that class. It's how we feel the best player would do with that class, right? So now there's some kind of like numbers that, imperfect as they may be, they give you a rough ballpark of what's possible with the classes. And you see such a stark difference between the classes, right?
Yep.
That's like the first thing you notice. And let's take out the top player for these. And I like to look at the third best player that's tracked, because it shows you, like, so what if one person's ridiculously amazing at one class, right? If like literally no other great players can replicate that thing, it could be like a sample size issue, it could be like a ridiculous hot streak or whatever. Anyway, I like to look at number 3. So Mage is at 7.75, Rogue is at 7.71, Paladin is at 7.73, Druid is at 7.5. None of the other classes break 7.
Yep.
That should tell you something. That's a ridiculous difference. All of these classes are above 7.5, and none of the other classes even hit 7.
Yeah. And it just goes with the theory. I see a post every now and again, and it usually is someone who, just got 2 12 wins in a row with some a classic priest, right? And they're like, I got it now. I figured all of this out. All of you guys are wrong. Like, I believe that Priest has made a comeback and it's now a top 3 class. And in my mind, I'm just thinking like, all right, let's not let like this small sample size, recency bias get to you. It's not like, Shaman is still not a top class. Priest is still not a top class. Your sort of recent success doesn't change just the fundamentals of the class. And I think what you used is a kind of a good measure. And I actually like to add a little bit with that as well. I like to look at the number 1 score compared to the number 3 score as well. So I kind of look at it as a spectrum as well.
Okay.
So for example,
I love the really wide ones at Warrior and Mage.
Oh yeah,
which is probably the least used class and the most used class.
Yeah, but even with the Warrior, you look at it. So it's the top score is really good, 8.86. Even the bottom score, it's so close to 7, right? So out of the top 4, so outside of kind of the top 4 that we just talked about, Warrior comes the closest to knocking on the door of Infinite.
Yep.
6.94.
That's just why, like, Crip has said that Warrior is now, like, along with Druid, the 4th best class.
Mm-hmm.
And we're obviously not ready to go to go there yet, but we had him on the Lightforge about almost exactly like a month ago, and he said Warrior was bottom, like 3rd from the bottom, and we agreed with him. And so as you play more, like, and before that, when all the cards had already come out and we played it, I think we all still said, "Oh, Warrior's probably still the worst class," but like it's no longer like laughably so. So you can just see how quickly like our views on Warriors has just been shifting. And as we just kind of realize what a great job Blizzard has done in improving the Warrior, beyond anyone's expectations, beyond what we were even able to, like, it was just so wild that we couldn't even admit to it in the beginning. We're just like, well, clearly there's a sample size issue here. Let's play more. And eventually it's like, all right, we played a lot now.
Yeah. And that's the fun thing about, playing this game and learning more about it, right? We're all good players and we try our best to predict, and we're usually pretty good at predicting things, but I don't think anyone saw kind of the ascent of Warrior this soon and this fast.
Yeah.
And that's a very pleasant surprise. It's cool.
It's a learning opportunity, because now we know what like really good cards that are with the 50% OE bonus can do to a class, even without, the hero power hasn't changed.
Right.
And also, like, I mean, personally, I had underestimated it in large part because I didn't realize how big of a difference the TGT bonus going away would have been. And then you add the LOE bonus, which is 25% more than we had expected it to be. But still, right, that doesn't get you from the worst class to the middling class.
Yeah, we didn't think so, but very pleasant surprise. And at the very bottom, we see that it is Hunter in terms of stats. It has, this is something that I like to look at as well. It has the worst top score and the worst 3rd score as well. So there's some consistency there as well. So the top score is 6.83. The bottom is 6.13. And it is just, man, Hunter is just not performing well right now, right?
Yep. And we knew it. We all said it. We were great Hunter players in TGT, and then OE came out, and we were like, well, Hunter sucks now. I don't know why. It just does.
Well, part of it you can attribute to the lack of...
Sure. Like, we know why it got worse.
Yeah.
We didn't know why it got that much worse.
Right. But
like, just to put this in perspective, Shady Bunny, who is, in our mind, the best Hunter player, is averaging only 6.83. And he's like, this is like trademark class. He plays Hunter. He plays it a lot. He plays it very well. And this is below 7 wins per run, right? I mean, I don't have the sample size for it. I don't know how many Hunter runs I have, but it's definitely not even 10. But so far, I'm beating that right now. I think I'm at like 7.0 or something like that. But we'll see if I can get there once I get my sample size up. But still, the idea is that like that's a pretty low top score. Right?
It is.
And both us and Shady were doing better with it before in TGT. So it's nice to see that you're not the only one sucking with the class, right? As opposed to like Shaman, where we can just look at it and say, yeah, we're just sucking with it.
Well, it's not...
People are doing fine.
High. So the top score there is 7.07, and the bottom score is 6.45.
Yeah, by bottom score, you mean third score.
Yeah, sorry.
By bottom, you mean the third best streamer for the record wise.
Yes, the third score. It's just they only list the top 3 on the front page. So the third score is 6.45, and this is something that we, if you follow us at all, you know that we readily admit we are not good Shaman players. I don't think I'm a good Shaman player. I'm probably better than a guy you pull off the street, but other than that, I would say I'm a very good rogue player. I'm a very good, I don't know. I don't want to say I'm a good player for anything else because the other classes are just boring. I just like playing rogue. But as for Shaman, we're not good. But it also shows that it's just not a great class, right? Mm-hmm. Compared to all the other classes, the win rate is very much so lower than the top classes, sometimes by 1 or even 2 wins.
Yep. I do want to point out the ridiculous consistency that Warlock has. We're at the top of Warlock at 7.08. Number 3 is 6.76 Retro Gold. That's such a small differential, and Hafu's number 2. So it's very much. I think it's the most consistent class. Maybe Paladin also along that line.
Paladin, yeah.
And then you have some of these are kind of clear outliers, right? Like we were talking about Warrior. The 8.86 on the Warrior is us and mostly me, because I just been playing a ton of solo warriors, and I'm pretty sure I was the best warrior player in Classic, and it's kind of returning to the Classic meta, so I'm not very surprised by it. But I was also pretty sure at the time that no one else was coming close to me with this class, so it's not like I'm not going to rate warrior higher, because for some weird reason I'm grabbing a handle of it in a way that's very much surpassing other amazing players. So that's why I like to look at the third one. Just looking at Warrior, it's so clear, right? Warrior's always been my best class or second best class after Mage, right? When it was in the meta. That doesn't mean I'm going to think Warrior is actually the second best class, no. Right? On a tier list.
Basically, ADWCTA is not going to be the guy who posts his 212 wins with the Priest and be like, Priest is number 3 now.
Even if I'm consistent with it, right?
Exactly.
I have to think that someone else can do that with another class or something, and I wouldn't necessarily agree with it. So I don't know. Maybe it's not like I said, it's not an exact science how we do the class tier list. It's definitely not statistically determined. It's really just how we feel. And even with my Warrior performance, I don't feel that Warrior is as good as Crypt feels that Warrior is. And Crypt is number 2 at Warrior and at 7.61. But he rates it a bit higher than we do. I think it's also his second best class. So he seems to go. It's just a different way that people kind of rate the classes.
Yep.
All right. So getting out of the streamer world and getting more into the whole what do you do, right? Like, you're a listener. You could be 5 wins per run looking to break into infinite. You could be 7 wins per run and saying, wow, I'm like an insanely good player. Why am I watching these guys? I'm just as good. And that could totally be true. But just, if you are trying to get to 7 wins per run or trying to get to infinite, that difference between Paladin, Druid, Mage, Rogue, and between Hunter, Priest, Warlock, Shaman, Warrior, that like gap, even among people who are really, really good at this game and do it a lot, is so huge. So if you're looking to be infinite, a really good piece of advice, like we're talking about like 7 wins per run player, right? Warlock, Priest, Hunter, Shaman, and Warrior. Out of all of those, only 3 streamers have in any of those more than 7 wins per run.
Yeah.
So if you're playing a lot of non-top classes, you're not going to get to 7 wins per run. The easiest way to get 7 wins per run is to focus in on the good classes. And you can do it by playing them more often, or you can do it by just like dropping 1 or 2 of your worst classes from your rotation until you get infinite, and then add them back. I know, we like to play all classes evenly, and we promote that. We think that's the best way to play the game. But if you're looking to get infinite, I didn't start out playing all classes evenly. Right? I didn't get to infinite playing all classes evenly. I got to infinite playing Mage, Paladin, and Shaman, and Druid. Those were the 4 classes I played as much as possible, and then I got infinite. And then I started adding classes. I added Rogue in. I added Warrior in. I added Warlock in. I didn't really play Hunter and Priest until like more than a month and a half, 2 months after I was already an infinite player. Like I had logged in like 2 Hunter runs and 2 Priest runs to like see what that was about.
Yeah, and this is how ADWCTA and I helped each other as well, right? We both played at the same time, but we didn't play in the same style. We didn't play the same classes. So we definitely helped each other with some classes as well. And this is kind of part of the improvement. And this is kind of how we set ourselves up. So we had specific classes that we were good at. There was some overlap as well. Obviously, we picked the good classes, and we were both good a long time ago with Shaman, right? We both did well with Shaman.
Chat's exploding right now, and like, Shaman? What do you mean Shaman? We were really good with Shaman. My first 12 run was with the Shaman.
I know. But then stuff like, Warrior, I didn't play it. I was not good at it. And there was a time when ADWCTA came to me and asked me to help him with his Rogue as well. He's obviously a very good Rogue player now, but there was a time before where we helped each other out, but it started with getting a few classes down and really focusing on those classes.
Yeah, especially if you're worried about your gold, right? Like, there's no reason to like. I know, like if you're a fan of us and you see how we play and we talk about all the classes, but you don't have to play all the classes. In fact, I would advise people who are not infinite to not play all the classes and focus on like. I would say like 5 classes is a good number to focus on. So, and of those 5 classes, at least 3 of them should be the top 4 classes.
Yeah.
And you'll be able to do it because you always have selections. You'll rarely be forced to pick one of your like, quote unquote bottom 4 classes. So for people who are looking to go infinite and you aren't already, that's the number 1 advice I'll give. And the stats, we now have stats from the records of the top arena streamers. And it just confirms you're not going to get 7 wins per run playing the bad classes. Or if you are, it's going to be barely, and it's going to fluctuate a lot, and you have to be like that good and that try hard. So just a little, this isn't just like these stats they're useful, right? To like see the big picture of stuff like that. We really don't want this to turn into the stats mean you're the best player, right? Like right now we're 0.14 wins per run below Shady Bunny in our last 50 runs. So he must be doing, he must be a better player than we are in the last 50 runs. He's gotten a better record, right? In the same way, we wouldn't put our record above whatever. And Hafu's last 50 runs average is like insanely high. And so we can transition into our 101 challenge piece, which is if you were not paying attention, we had tweeted this out, but if you were like, doing other stuff this week, Hafu had come very close to getting 100, being the first person to complete the 110 challenge, and The 110 challenge was started by a Maz like in the middle of December, which is just that you have to call out your first run and then you can't repeat classes unless you absolutely have to. And you have to get 100 wins in 10 runs. And as soon as you are no longer mathematically able to complete the mission, your number stops. And so he had, what was Amaz's number?
He got 69.
He got 69 on I think the first try too, which is like, was it his first try? Maybe not. But regardless, it was a pretty impressive number, and it had stood throughout like the entire month. I gave it one shot, and then I was like, nope. I got like a 30 or something, and then I just didn't try again. And the hard part isn't. I mean, it's really hard to get 100 wins in 10 runs, but the hard part isn't even that. It's that you have to count from a certain point. So that reduces your odds. Like if you're just playing this as a gambling kind of thing, that reduces your odds by 85%. Yeah. Looking back on our record, we've completed it at least twice in terms of 100 wins in 10 runs while using all classes evenly.
Yeah, so we've fulfilled it to some extent.
Yeah, but at no point were we going to like call out the right run as the starting point.
Right.
And so it's a really difficult challenge. Anyway, Hafu had gotten like 67 in 6 runs or something.
Yes, 67 in 6 runs. So she was on a blistering pace.
Yeah, that's more than 10 wins per run. It's more than 11 wins per run, actually.
Something like that.
Yeah. But she was using all her good classes, and then she had to play Priest. And that didn't go so well. So she ended up, and then she got back on track, right? And then she posted high scores again. But it just takes one run to kind of throw you off. So she got very close. She ended up with 85, which is now the new record. But
this whole entire thing is insane. So I'll tell you guys right now, I am currently in the middle of a run, right? And when I first heard of this, so you guys, and by you guys I mean all the streamers, kind of started this challenge when I was taking my winter break, correct? It was like during that time. Yep. And when I had first heard of this challenge, I'm like, this is basically impossible.
Yeah. I think Crip has said that it's impossible too.
Yeah, and it's also really hard because as you get higher, the hype train, just is, everyone's really excited about this, and your chance of getting sniped and ghosted increase exponentially, right? Even more so than usual. But you have to do it on stream. That's a requirement. So it's definitely a danger in there. But in my current run, I've just realized, so I went 12 wins, and then my next one was just 3 wins. But I couldn't I couldn't quit because that's how the rules are. You just have to keep on going until you can't go anymore. Mm-hmm. So it was 12, 3, 6, and then 10, 12, 10. So I'm still in it, but for my last 4 runs, I can only lose once in 4 runs. So I need like 11, 12, 12, 12. Or,
to be number 2, to break Amaz's record, you need an 11-win run on your next run, and then you'll have it. Because unless you like totally tank your run after that,
I stand a very good shot of it.
But to get to Hafu's record, you need to then get like another 12-win run after your 11-win run, and then probably another one. So
and to just show you guys how difficult it is. First of all, that 3-win run just tanked. Just kind of eliminated a realistic shot of getting it. And also, if I just average out these 6 runs, I'm averaging 8.8 wins per run, which is fantastic. That's really good.
Pat yourself on the back.
Yeah, well, thank you. And
during the same stretch, I'm averaging like 5.5, like a huge slump.
Yeah, and obviously I played some pretty good classes, but Warlock was in there, Hunter was in there as well. And that's a very good record. But for the purposes of this challenge, my 8.8 average is
below par.
It's terrible. Mm-hmm. It's basically not. If I do this, I think my chances of completing the challenge right now are less than 1%, significantly less than 1%.
Yep.
To go basically 1 loss, or I can only afford one 11-win run, and now I'm faced with Shaman, Priest, and Warrior. I have to pick those if they come up. So
we all know now that Warrior is like an insanely good class, maybe potentially. So
good, but this is just to highlight how extremely difficult it is.
Yeah.
And I saw
And
some
how
people.
close Hafu got. She
Yeah,
was like alive to like almost the final run, which is just an insane thing to pull off. And you know, it's not like she's bad at Priest. According to these record, her record is the second best on Priest.
yeah,
So like Priest is one of those classes where you can sometimes get a bad deck or a bad series of, you know, events that you just don't have control over, right? We say it all the time. Like you have the least control over your Priest runs out of like out of all of your runs. And coincidentally, we're going to talk more about the Priest later, because we're doing a Priest run today, in the Arena Coupe, as we now try to defend our highest record as Priest. This is totally deflated. You remember the New Year's resolution, Lightforge, where we're like, what is our Hearthstone New Year's resolution? And I was like, it's going to be the year of the Priest. I'm going to learn Priest. And now this leaderboard thing comes out, and I find out that we actually have, by a fair margin, the highest record on Priest among the streamers.
sample size is not that big, but not a lot of people play
tiny.
Priest. Period.
Well,
So,
sample size for no one is big at Priest.
Yeah.
That's why, right? Like, the top three is us, Hafu, and Crip. The highest sample size is Crip at 16. We're at 10. Like,
yeah,
this is not, like, it's going to swing wildly. But regardless, now I'm more convinced than ever, just convinced of how bad of a class Priest is, right? Like, because it's not like I came in here, I'm like, I'm the best at Priest. I came in and I'm like, I suck at Priest. I think I have a lot to learn on Priest, and that's going to be my focus for the new year. And I'm sure I still do, but it just means that everyone else does as well. Like,
Yeah.
if there is a way to play Priest that is ideal and or consistent, kind of none of the streamers have figured it out.
yeah, definitely. And it just, like you said, we'll talk about this later, but it just showcases sort of some difficulties with the class and some things that hold it back.
Mm-hmm.
But this challenge, all right, I want to ask you a question.
Okay.
Do you think this challenge will ever be beat, and how long will it take?
I think this challenge will be beat sometime this year.
I don't think this challenge will be beat because I think people's interest will disappear before anyone beats the challenge.
I think at some point someone's going to put up some money.
Really?
Maybe even a Maz. Who knows, right? Like, this time's going to be a lot of money, just a couple $100 or something, right?
Okay, fair.
Like, just imagine if the challenge existed and there was like a $200, prize for whoever pulls it off, which is an insanely low amount for how difficult the challenge is.
Right.
Then all the arena streamers or non-arena streamers who stream one arena run every now and then would like participate, right?
That's fair. I think that
like,
is
even if you just play 2 arena runs a week, why not? Right? And it generates interest, and it it's all good stuff, and it's really good to just get people playing the arena. So
right.
I think it'll happen.
Okay. All right. I don't think it'll happen. I'm gonna be the pessimist as well, and I know that Hafu got really close. I just think that it becomes so much harder as you get to the home stretch, right? And I just have no faith in kind of the overall community.
Way to trash all of our fellow friends who are arena streamers. You just have no faith in any of them making it.
Well, no. I have no faith in the community as in getting sniped.
Oh, you think that you're just going to get sniped?
No. Obviously, look, everyone on kind of like the list that we just talked about are amazing players, right? And I have, every time I do a co-op with like Hafu, Shady, Ratsma, like who have we, like Crip, Sim, like these people that we've all done co-ops with, right?
Mm-hmm.
I feel as if I take away something from every single co-op, and that's awesome. But what I don't have faith in is kind of because all you need to do is get sniped once, right? And one loss.
Even if you get sniped, I think you still have a 50% chance of winning if you're good.
Right. But once kind of the magnifying glass is on you, it's just going to be really tough to avoid that.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. It is going to be really hard. I do think people could pull it off, though. You can also just get insanely lucky, right? Like if it's going to be tried enough times by enough people, I don't know.
I think if it were to be done, like the smaller streamers have a better shot.
Yes, I do agree. I mean, it's just, the smaller of a streamer you are, the less things that are working against you. For any of these things. I'm actually surprised that there's not. Well, I guess they would have probably become known if like you're a small streamer is averaging like 7.5 wins per run. I'd feel like you know. I guess before I thought maybe there's just random streamers out there who have like 2 viewers because like maybe they have no charisma, maybe they have no face cam or whatever, but they've been like quietly building this average up. But it looks like if they're out there, we haven't found them yet. But yeah, like there's advantages to being a small streamer compared to a large streamer, and obviously being a non-streamer is the best. Okay, so that's the 110 challenge. I thought we'd cover it because it's something that's going on in the arena community, and it's actually been going on for a while, but just no one has even gotten close to it. It wasn't really worth talking about, and until this week, where we're halfway, almost got there. Definitely, everyone was watching. It was great. Like in the chat. After I think you streamed with her afterwards, but like everyone was just kind of like in the chat hanging out. Whoa, when the
it wasn't just arena players, constructed players were there too.
Yeah, because it would have been a huge deal if you. I mean, it's a huge deal anyway for the arena community, but it would have been a huge deal like period if she pulled it off, right? Yeah. Like it's ridiculous. Okay. Anyway, good luck to you going 11, 12, 12, and 12 in your next 4 runs while using priest
and shaman.
Yes, oh god, shaman's gonna tank you. Okay, so I guess this kind of covers the deep fried meta. We were going to talk about the class hierarchy and deep fried meta. I think we worked that into it enough. We're not going to put this out as a separate thing, but be on the lookout on HearthstonePlayers.com, and we'll put it out. I'll put a post out on it on Reddit as well. We're going to release the updated version of the OE update for our class tier list and kind of describe some of the stuff that's been happening. We do a more, or I think we do it more for like record keeping sake of like so that people can point to something rather than like actual news, right? You guys already know how we feel about the classes. That's not going to be news, but I think it's good to have someplace in one place where there's an explanation of why the classes are like good or bad or like how to play them, what to watch out for.
Definitely.
Okay, question from the GOAT. What do we have?
All right, so this is a question that people ask as kind of a personality test, or just to kind of see what you would do in this situation, right? So the question that I'm referencing is kind of people like to ask, if this is your last day on Earth, what would you do? Like who would you spend it with? Where would you go? What would you do with your last day on Earth? So ADWCTA, if this was your last day to play Hearthstone, like Hearthstone doesn't exist after this. Like after this 24 hours are over, how would you play Hearthstone? Like, what would you do? Would you do anything different? Would you do anything crazy in Hearthstone? What would you do?
I would play the arena, and I would play a lot of warrior, and I would try to get as many wins as I can. I'm a boring person. What would you do? What exciting things would you do?
There's okay. Look, maybe it's just lack of creativity. Like, okay, you can go like create full collection of like golden troll decks and try to like troll people on constructed.
I have all golden cards anytime I want to make a deck anyway.
Right, sure. No. So you could do that. You could like because you have lots of gold, right? You could do the thing that
I would use up all my gold. I would buy a lot of packs. I would definitely
right. Okay, there you go. That's something. There you go.
And then I would open up all the cards knowing I would never be able to use it, and no one would ever be able to use it. And then I would feel at peace with the world in a Zen-like fashion that happens only when you lose everything.
But that's fine. There's other things that you can do. For example, like because you have so much gold, right? This is something that Ratsma does from time to time. He just tries to get a really ridiculously synergistic constructed deck in the arena, right?
Oh, right. He purposefully tries to draft for...
Right. So he would try to draft like Secret Paladin, and then if he doesn't get it, retire and try again, and retire and try again. And that's just because he wants to have some fun. Like, you could do that because you're never going to use your gold, and it doesn't matter if you're retiring these decks.
That's not... I don't do that, though. I treat it as a roguelike. I like the random elements. Like, I would play it out regardless.
Oh, my gosh.
I like the punishment.
Like, what's your favorite ice cream flavor? Is it vanilla or is it ice cream is too dangerous? I don't want to touch that.
Well, kind of sometimes. It's like really cold, and sometimes I just wouldn't want it because I would want a room temperature snack. Stop judging me.
You are so fun. This is great. I'm glad we are hosting the show together. Okay. So anyways,
so what would you do, Mr. Excitement?
oh yeah, look, here's what I would do. I would make all sorts of like, so first of all, I think I would stream. I'd make like ridiculous prop bets. I would do like whatever you guys wanted me to play on stream. I would do like all legendary golden deck. Sure, let's do that. Let's play that. Buy packs. I would try the Ratsma method of just like getting a ridiculous YOLO constructed deck in the arena. I would do all this stuff. It's your last day, right? I was hoping you at least do one of these things.
No, I play the warrior. I'll do that. I may retire stuff for the first time ever just to get more warrior runs. I may do that. I have never retired a deck in my life. I actually don't know what happens when you hit the retire button.
This
I
is
don't
like
know if there's a
asking
confirmation.
Okay.
I don't know. I've just never retired.
Okay, your answer is like the guy. If I asked him, it's like, what would you do with your last day on Earth? He'd be like, I would like to try peanut butter for the first time in my life.
I probably would if I never had peanut butter, wouldn't you?
Sure, but that's what your answer is like. It's like, wow, you know what? I've never jaywalked, and I want the thrill from my first jaywalk.
Oh, I jaywalk all the time.
Oh, wow.
I live in New York. You can't get around without jaywalking.
Yeah, but these are the answers that you're giving me here. Okay.
Well, maybe our viewers / listeners can come up with better answers, and if you can, tweet it at us or at ADWCTA or at Merps 4248. And we'll be excited to hear what you have. Probably better than our answers. Definitely better than mine. I hope better than Merps's as well. Because I don't think your answer really covered anything more than I'll do fun things. I bet someone would come up with an answer that blows both of ours away. Just like some ridiculously creative and fun thing that we would all be like, oh, that's what we should have said. If we were like creative enough to actually think about that.
I don't think you're in any position to judge my answer. Okay, let's move on to
that much is true. All right, thank you everybody, by the way, for contributing to the GOAT. Merps is right now. Well, I am as well, but I've had this computer for a little bit. Mine came first, even though I specified to get Merps' computer first because his potato was dying. But that didn't work out. Still, Merps has his computer now, all thanks to the Patreon donors and the Twitch subs. And so if you want to help out and get, I don't know, we'll probably have more use for stuff as well later. But it's Grinning, it's patreon.com/grinninggoat. We really appreciate it. Merps had a computer that was a potato that was actually like making physical sounds of breaking down. It was kind of scary when he didn't have his like noise gate on. And now he is no longer using that computer. And if you're watching this, you can tell he's on HD all the time now, instead of like randomly switching between 360p and like HD, because his computer is no longer telling him, no, we just can't process your video.
You thought that was my connection. I was like, no, it's not the connection. It's literally
it's actually your computer
dying.
Yeah. Well, your computer is now totally dead in a junk, probably like somewhere on the side of your room. And it's really nice computers that we got, so I'm really happy about that. And we may use it to stream actual games that take like processing speed and whatever, and not just Hearthstone later on. So thank you guys so much. And I guess let's move on to Card Good Bad now. This is actually like one of the first requests for Card Good Bad that we just like didn't get around to for like 2 months. This was like a November request.
Yeah,
and
I guess it was.
It is Paladin Secrets, or more specifically, I interpreted it as more specifically Redemption, Avenge, and Competitive Spirit, because the other Paladin Secrets are not that hard to play around.
That's true. And with these are kind of the ones that really kind of make you think, right? Noble Sack, it obviously, you have to play around it as well. But anytime you attack, it's kind of a question of, do I want to attack or do I not want to attack? Redemption is kind of the X factor, right? A lot of times you expect the Avenge. Like Redemption and Competitive Spirit are sort of the X factors. You expect the Noble Sack, you expect the Avenge. But a lot of times, like if you don't want to attack into the Avenge, then Competitive Spirit can get to you, right? if they only have one minion out there and it's like a shielded mini, and you're like, okay, let's try to delay the avenge for a while, and you want to kill the shielded mini, but then you're like, oh man, if it's a redemption, that's really bad as well. So Paladin secrets definitely are very tricky, right? And it's um I always like to think of it as kind of the annoyance factor and the trickiness factor, and you get a lot of value from the annoyance factor for just one mana. So mage secrets are definitely more powerful. They're very and they should be because they cost more mana. But kind of the mind game sometimes that paladins force upon you with just one mana is really powerful. It's really good.
Yep, yep. I mean, it's a tempo card for that reason. The one mana is the insane part about Paladin secrets. That's what
Yes.
differentiates it from other secrets, where you generally have to play that secret instead of doing something else. For Paladin, you can just wait until you float a mana and then you just throw it out, and it's a very smooth process. Um, and the redemption, like the one that gets me the most is redemption, because I always think it's avenge because it's always avenge. But redemption, and when it's avenge, you can't keep things on the board, right? He drops one minion and puts a secret out. You have to kill it, because otherwise the next turn you can no longer remove minions without getting the avenge to trigger. So if you leave a minion of his on the board, you're kind of committing to just going face, or you better have some kind of like hard removal or like board clear or something, right?
Yeah.
But if he drops like a shredder or like, I don't know, shielded mini bot or something and puts a redemption on it, you're gonna play into it, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of the problem. Like, there's no good way to play around redemption. If in the case where you think it could be an avenge. Now, on the other hand, if multiple minions are being dropped, most of the time your best bet is actually just to go face so that it doesn't trigger no matter which one it is. And then you have very complicated mental math and gymnastics to do before you figure out how the best order is to attack each and what the costs and benefits are of whether it's avenge or redemption.
Right.
But that like one minion or like an Annoyotron or just something with a taunt, a Sledge Belcher or something with a secret, I hate that. I absolutely hate it because I can't not kill it, and I know that if it's a redemption, I'm screwed. And it's only a redemption like 15% of the time. Like even when that scenario comes out, so it's not like I get screwed a lot because people just don't take redemption. But when it is redemption, I feel like I can't play around it.
Yeah, it's like any sort of any sort of time in which you're faced with a very rare secret, and it could just be because of rarity. Like for example, Snake Trap, right? Snake
Mm-hmm.
Trap, you don't really play around, not because it's a bad secret or a situational secret. Snake Trap is very good in the arena, but because it's an epic card, so you don't play around that. Uh, with Redemption, it's not about the actual card rarity. It's just about because it's very situational and because it's been kind of established that Redemption is not a great card, so people don't take it very often. But there are situations that you put it down, you're just like, ugh, okay, well, I'm not playing around it just because the chances of them having it is really bad. Even though the board state says if it's Redemption, I probably just lose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's how you play quote unquote around Paladin secrets, as you just play into the redemption. And unfortunately, that's just there's no better way. For competitive spirit, if you want to do the value calculations, if it triggers on one minion, he lost value. If he triggers on two minions, he kind of gets his value. Not even like even if competitive spirit triggers on two minions, he's like barely better off.
Right.
Like, and if it triggers on three minions, he gets value out of it. So if you see three minions on the board and you suspect it could be competitive spirit, maybe you do some clearing. But generally, just let him have the competitive spirit. I wouldn't. I almost never consider that it might be competitive spirit unless I have nothing else to play around, or that I have like already. It's like I've already. It would that the other traps would have already triggered. So I know it's a competitive spirit, and then I play around it.
Yeah. And I think that is every situation is different. And you might be in a game in which you could just have a read on your opponent, right?
Mm-hmm.
Judging by the way they play, even how fast they play, sometimes you might have a good read. But yeah, I think the main takeaway is just um, although Paladin secrets might not be good in every situation, which is good because they only cost 1 mana, the fact that they can make you sort of think and maybe make you stumble a little bit for just 1 mana is really worth it.
Yep.
So like mages sort of, they have to devote a turn, or they have to devote kind of actual resources to playing their secret, right? 3 mana is no joke. 1 mana, you can always squeeze in there. You're always going to have one turn in which you hang 1 mana. But hanging 3 mana for a turn before, let's say, turn 8, it's just never going to happen. So they have to actively devote sort of a turn or half a turn into it. And just by a mage doing that, you already sort of have a guess on their secret.
Yep.
So,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. Paladin secrets are definitely trickier. Which is funny because they used to be the least tricky things ever.
They did.
They used to be like, oh, is it a noble sack? Nope. All right, we're good.
That's it. In Classic, that was exactly it. Like, it was either a noble sack or this guy probably misdrafted.
Yup. No, I mean, back then I actually really liked Repentance because I really liked Light's Justice.
That's true. You did.
Little did I know what was about to happen. All right, so let's finish this up with the talk about priests specifically, because we're about to do a priest run, and we surprisingly found out today that we have the top priest record of arena streamers. Go us! This is the record that I am I guess the least proud of and the most disappointed in. I would really like, you know, like I like records. I'm a competitive person. I'm always try-harding, right? Like I try hard when no one keeps track of things. So this is like a good way for me to not have to do as much work. And you know, our mods track our records because this is just something like, this is what we do, right? We try hard and we try to teach people, and we try to have a good time too. But primarily, I'm trying to win. And so generally, I like it when I'm on top. Like that is my preferred position. Except in this case, because I was really, really, really hoping to be able to like learn a lot of things and to have my mind open. And now, seeing everyone else's record as similarly crappy, Hafu actually has 7.1. And you know, again, if you have a better record, even if you have a worse record, you probably learn something from the other people because you're good at different points. So definitely that. But it kind of tells me I'm really not missing the big picture of Priest the way I thought I was. And that's disappointing because Priest is kind of a very unique class. And so I was hoping that there was, like right now I have a lot of fun playing Warlock because I play Warlock very differently than I play other classes. And it's a good like change of pace. Same with Warrior. And in theory, same with Priest. So if Priest is actually going to be like a good class, then it would provide more diversity to my arena runs, and I would really appreciate it. And I guess that's a little disappointing on that. So if you were to critique the way I play Priest, how would you critique it?
Another person? So you're asking someone who doesn't consider themselves a great
Priest exactly. Like we said, we could learn from everybody, right?
Sure. Yeah, I guess you could perhaps learn something from a guy who's bringing up your average and significantly improving your public image.
It's actually true. Merps is bringing up my Priest average because he has one Priest run on record, and it is 8.
That's very true.
So technically, Merps is bringing up my Priest record.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's see. I don't know. Like, whenever you play Priest, I think that what it does do, like, this is very different now. But we used to, like, I used to be the much slower player.
Mm-hmm.
And I think now, if you look at it throughout all the classes, I think I'm actually a faster player than you now.
Yeah, I think you are.
Or for like just overall in all classes, right? Mm-hmm. It doesn't, you know, if we point to a specific class, that doesn't matter.
I think 70% of the time we disagree on trying to do the anti-tempo play.
Yeah, I think so.
Or so like the anti-face play or whatever,
right? Right. Anti-tempo, anti-face, something like that. And I think that works out well for you. But if I were to critique you in some way, I think that with Priest, because you feel comfortable doing that, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I think sometimes you do have to shift a little bit just because of circumstances. Like, I can't even say flame strike, but like, you let them go on for a while, and as a priest, you should have a very kind of late game deck. But sometimes I think if you don't have a late game deck, but you still want to play it, because you're the priest, you feel comfortable doing it, but not taking into consideration that your deck isn't like the super
Okay.
late game priest deck. So if you were to have a weakness, I think that might be it. But
Okay.
this
So
is
like when
kind
I
of
draft aggro decks that I still sometimes play, like when I'm the priest, I still play as if I have the card advantage to back it up, and then I, top deck a couple 2-drops, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm dead.
right. But it's natural to think like that because you're playing priest, right? You're
Right.
like, oh, okay, I'm just gonna play this
Right.
style.
And you can't rush them down really because you have no reach because you're priest.
Right. But then sometimes you're like, well, maybe that's a better shot, And
Right.
these are some of those like
Yeah.
55, 45 plays that we're talking about, in which I'm not so sure. But if you want me to critique you, that's kind of
Okay.
my gut instinct by watching some of your games. And I could just be totally wrong here.
Yeah. Okay. Because I'm trying to. I think I can make priest work. We're currently averaging 7.5 wins per run. I think it's definitely gonna go down.
Oh, yeah.
But hopefully we'll stall it for one more run today and get 8 wins at least. But
There you go.
but like I feel like I'm missing something with between like the ways we're like prioritizing things like power word shields or just it seems like you can do a lot of things in the priest, and whenever I play the priest, it always feels like I can do nothing. So that's why I keep feeling like I'm playing it wrong. Not that I'm saying you can play the priest like a rogue, but I'm saying it has to feel a little less helpless because there are things you can do with the priest, and I get it done to me. Like, and maybe it's just all RNG whether it can be done or not. But a lot of the times I struggle with this decision. Right? Do I put down 2 minions smaller with the higher chance that I get to buff one of them later, or do I play a bigger minion and actually have the buff matter because the buffs are all on health? So if you have a buff on something with 2 attack, who cares if it has 7 health, right? Like, taking aside Valence, talking about Powered Shield, talking about Tempo Enforcer, talking about potential Dark Cultist.
Right. And that's, again, one of those decisions where it's really tough, right? It's really tough because you have to look at kind of all the circumstances put together. Do you have a read on your opponent? Do you sort of like look at your hand, look at what you could draw into as well? And
Yeah.
that's really tough. And those are, we'd have to actually go into a in-game decision, and then we could really flesh it out.
It's not a decision any other class faces. Like, sometimes maybe Paladin, but not even. In the Paladin, you're still thinking more of attack than defense. But for the Priest, it's like, how do I set up a board so that I'm happy with the buff I'm going to give my minion? Like,
Yeah,
after you get
it's
past...
different.
Yeah, because your first step is, how do I set up a board so I have anything at all, right? Like,
Right.
But after that, even if you do have something on the board, you can still lose. And I feel like the percent chance that I have the board at some point and still lose as the priest is like maybe 25% or something, and that's way too high. I feel like I should be able to put that down to like 5% of like super outlier moments.
I don't know. And that's something that I think we just need more experience. But
Yep.
for now, I think I'm comfortable saying that, Priest is definitely not in a great spot. But look, it's the year of the Priest, right?
We ranked it as we ranked it as the worst class, or I ranked it as the worst class. I think you think it's like maybe tied for last or something like that.
Yeah, I think maybe. I don't know. I think Priest, Hunter, and Shaman are pretty close together, like very close together. So it's tough for me to say.
Stats would agree with you.
Yeah, definitely.
But I just feel like Priest is more helpless than the other two. I don't know.
Okay.
For Hunter, I keep feeling like I can always smork you down. I guess even when I can't.
That's true.
But yeah, and well, of course we have different experiences on this. Your Hunter has been god awful in OE, whereas mine's actually been. It's been I recognize the weakness, but it's still been performing adequately.
Yes.
Like above average.
That's true. It is one of the only areas where you excel. So congratulations.
And Shaman. Not that I'm good at Shaman, but just making the comparison between adequate and tanking. But
there we go.
But outside of those two classes, especially this year, this year's been so bad. Classes, if you want to talk about like slumps, right? Like, and how good players go into slumps, my slump this year has been like insane. Hopefully on my way to get out of it, but we'll see. All right. Oh, we were talking about this before. That it's the year of the priest, right? And I had called it the year of the priest, and what I meant was that I was going to make priest a viable class along with the rest of the classes that I am good at. And what has instead happened is that all my other classes has dropped to the level that my priest was previously.
Wow. This is
And
like one of those
so,
stories where it's like where someone gets a genie and is like, oh, I
yeah.
wish I were the richest man on earth. And then the genie just makes everyone else dirt poor.
hmm
That's it.
I made a bad resolution. I should have
You've,
been much more specific.
yep. You cursed yourself
Yep, I
and you
said I
cursed.
want a priest to be as good as my other classes. That's actually what my resolution was.
Wow. You should have phrased it much differently. You just don't know how to wish.
Yep.
It's good to
All right,
see
guys.
you again.
Tune in next week to see if ADWCTA changes his luck and finds another genie and all of this magical stuff.
All right. Until then, this is ADWCTA.
This is Merps. Take care, guys.
See ya.